playing underdogs.
Awesome. And we are live.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to another Football Friday here at 305 Takes. Before we get started with our breakdown of this week's NFL matchups, we'd like to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, E2G Sports, taking care of things behind the scenes, just anything that you guys want to check out as far as NFL news, fantasy news, NBA news. They have some World Cup updates as the World Cup is set to kick off on Sunday as well. And we're getting closer and closer to the date that me and Angel have been talking about, where you could literally watch sports from 4 a.m. until 11 p.m. So any of the updates that you need for any of your sports podcast needs, go to e2gsports.com and you can check it out there. And let's get started with the podcast, Angel, because it's Football Friday.
It's Football Friday, and we got to start off with the new topic, write them off. Man, write them off.
I mean, it's at the point in the NFL season where I think we basically have our opinions about teams, whether it's right or wrong, but it's based off of what we've seen on the field so far. And looking at last night's game, I mean, you could say it's a surprise, but with the way one team has been playing, I don't know if you could be really that surprised with the Green Bay Packers losing to the Tennessee Titans. And honestly, for me, I don't know how this is anything more than a write-off. And at some point, we got to see Jordan Love, I'm assuming.
Yeah, honestly, at some point, and I wouldn't blame people after last night's loss if they write off the Packers, but that's a good one. The one team I chose to write off, especially in terms of like even betting, I'm writing off the Raiders, man. The Raiders have just disappointed me the whole year. They're in close games, but still, like, who would have thought at this point in the season they'd be 2-7? Like, let's be honest.
And losing to Jeff Saturday.
One, we told people not to bet on that game just because we didn't know what was happening, and thank God I didn't even look at that, because I probably would have bet the Raiders just from like, all right, it's Jeff Saturday's first game. Yeah, they might play hard, but let's be honest, no one really knows if he knows what he's doing. And that's
he was 3-6 as a high school coach. 3-6 as a high school football coach, and now he's 1-0 in the NFL. That's why football is amazing. And when you think about it, do you think that we might have a slight possibility of a Las Vegas curse going on with the Raiders? Because we know all the off-field stuff that they got into, whether it was Henry Ruggs,
last season it was just a bunch of news cycles who kept going through them.
Yeah, John Gruden. And they let go of their GM. It was kind of, let's start fresh. They brought in Josh McDaniels, and it's more of the same. And then you look at the Broncos, who they play this week on the other side of the field, and it's like who's supposed to win this game? The most perfect thing, like chef kiss, would literally be if they tied. That would be chef kiss for this game.
Oh my gosh. But I'm even going to write off of them. I'm going to stay away from them in terms of betting, just because I'm like, I have no idea what's going to go on with them. They are just, to be honest, bro, it's a train wreck. And I would say if next year they don't get any better slightly at this point, like if next year, if they are not at least 5-4, I would really, really consider firing Josh McDaniels.
The only thing that might save him, literally the only thing that might save them, is that they signed John Gruden to such a long contract that he's still getting paid by the Raiders. So I don't know if they're going to want to pay John Gruden, pay the rest of Josh McDaniel's salary, and then pay the current coach that they used to replace Josh McDaniel. And my thing is, it's just like, what do they do at quarterback? Do they possibly move on from Carr? And what's the ramifications for Carr? Like I don't even know what spot he fits in. Yeah, and I it's hard to even find a spot really for him, because either most teams are either bad enough where they can say, all right, we'll look to draft somebody and get a system to fit around them, or they're in a position where they already drafted somebody or they're comfortable at the position. So it would be very, very interesting to see what happens as their season progresses. And it's just honestly a huge letdown for that whole division, because we were talking about it. The AFC West might be the best division that we've ever had of all time. And
we were so wrong.
Wrong. And the thing is like, all right, you can say like the injuries because Hunter Renfrow hasn't played, Darren Waller hasn't played, but Renfrow wasn't doing anything when he was active. The last memory I have of him is him fumbling the ball to get the Cardinals to walk-off touchdown in overtime.
To me, it was bumping into Devontae Adams at the end of the Chiefs game.
Yeah, so it's not like you're missing some guy that was absolutely lighting the world on fire prior to his injury. So I get that he's had good seasons, and I think he had 103 receptions, and Waller had 105 last year to set their franchise record. But the train is steering right off the tracks as it looks right now for the Las Vegas Raiders.
I mean, that's a team I will write off, and then the last team I personally will write off if they lose this weekend. Just stay away from them in terms of betting. I'm gonna have to go with the Carolina Panthers, man. I just don't know what is going on with them because, bro, they're just. I have no. I understand PJ Walker got hurt, and then, but I also know I'm like, come on, people, Baker Mayfield. Like, what
And
has Baker done? And Sam Darnold hasn't even seen the field
that's
yet.
what I was saying. That's what I was saying. Sam Darnold, like they're not even entertaining that idea. It seems like, and they had somebody else that replaced PJ Walker in that Rams game too. Some other random guy that they had on their team. So it's not like they're not throwing darts at the dartboard. It's just unfortunately all of those guys don't seem to be an answer for them. And I guess PJ Walker's had the best games. That the Atlanta game where he threw the touchdown pass to DJ Moore. But honestly, if I'm them at this point, I don't see what the reason you're trying to win game is like win games for. Like go and try
I
to get the
don't know.
highest pick possible. And I get that you are in the NFC South, and the Bucks haven't performed up to standards. The Saints haven't performed up to standards. So technically, you're still alive in the division. But I mean, so what? You can lose by 50 points in your first round playoff matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see it. And then this year, there's so many like I will say there's some good quarterbacks. I'm not going to say there's a great quarterback class. I will say good because I'm not a big fan of Will Levis. I like CJ Stroud. I like Bryce Young. The only knack I have on Bryce Young, I think he's a little too short to be an
He's
NFL
tiny.
quarterback.
He's tiny.
Yeah, and he's also just not a big guy. CJ Stroud, the he has the tangibles to be there. Like he's got height, he's got a good size on him. So that's where I just don't see it. And then for the Panthers, I still don't write them off because bro, their games they're so weird, so
So
weird. Like I cannot say I watched a Panthers game this year and say yeah, I expected that.
And the most surprising was that Buccaneers game. Like that has to be like Brady has to look back on that, and the whole organization has to look back on that and be like, what actually happened there? From the
How?
Mike Evans drop, wide open walk-in touchdown that he had, that he just completely dropped, let slide through his fingers, to them almost staying competitive in that Rams game and then just falling off in the second half, and the outburst with Robbie Anderson and then trading Robbie Anderson. And you had the rumors about Brian Burns. Brian Burns might get traded, and the next thing you know, it's actually Christian McCaffrey that we're going to trade.
Yeah.
Which
And
I mean, they did get a decent haul back for Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, they didn't get the first round pick, but considering that they had to give up picks to get Baker, you kind of had to replenish the draft stock, especially because even if you draft a rookie quarterback, like you're going to need people around him to help elevate his play. And right now, it's DJ Moore. I do like how the running backs with both Chuba Hubert and with Foreman have been playing without Christian McCaffrey, but how much is that is kind of like fool's gold just because they have the opportunity now.
yeah, bro, that's why I'm just so like I have to write them off. Like personally, if they lose this week, I'm writing them off. Like I'm even gonna stay away from in terms of gambling. I'm like, nope, Carolina, I've seen enough. I don't need to bet on you. If I'm betting on you to lose, I still won't do it just because I have no idea how that game's gonna turn out. I really don't.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and it kind of leads to my team that I'm just scared to bet on. I have no idea which way their season's going to go from this point, and that's the Los Angeles Rams. And this might be
A train
just
wreck.
off the top of my head in recent form. This might be the worst defense of a Super Bowl champion I can remember. And the
Yeah,
crazy part is that now they have no Cooper Cup. He was placed on IR, so that means he's going to miss at least the next 4 games. If they lose this week, and I know this is going to be painful for me because I have them in fantasy and all the other fantasy
they might
owners,
just sit
if
him
they
down.
I don't see for what. Like what's the point? I get that he's their whole offense and like that's how they move the ball. That's the only way they've been able to move the ball is when they target Cooper Cup. But like at this point, the season's a write off, and then we've been talking about it all year that they lack the depth because of the F them pick strategy. You don't have a first round pick this year. So like I
They
guess
don't
there is
have
still
any.
motivation to go ahead and still win games just so that the Lions pick isn't as good as it could be, but the Lions have that first round pick as a result of the Stafford trade. Stafford misses last week. Um, and their whole offensive line is just in shambles, just
Yeah,
in shambles. Like they're
and
on
we
third string slash practice squad guys as starters on the offensive line.
yeah, and we talked about how actually solid the Lions have been playing because we like their offense. Their defense can't score, but all those picks now that they got from the Rams, bro, they could legit build at least somewhat of a solid defense in the next couple of years and could potentially be good. Because I love what they have as a team. I would want them to upgrade at quarterback, but if they don't, I'm not going to be too mad about it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you just look at some of their most recent picks, they drafted Sewell last year, who I like. They drafted Hutchinson, who's been a little bit up and down, but I still think he has potential to at least be solid in the league. And what are the things that we always talk about? You need to build your team around. You need offensive line play, defensive line play. So they have two guys that they think can be legit, stud players at that position. And now you can add two more first round picks to it. They drafted Jamison Williams out of Alabama this year, who we haven't seen as he recovers from the ACL injury. So that's even more explosiveness to add to Amon-Ra St. Brown, to add to Swift. Williams is really good for them. He unfortunately takes a lot of carries away from Swift, which I know
Yeah.
definitely pains some fantasy owners. But
Oh, and they gained picks from trading TJ.
yeah, they traded away T.J. Hawkinson to grab some more picks, and I know he was coming off the books for them, but the only thing with them is that they're not really going to ever be a free agency
Yeah.
destination for any teams. But if you build internally, you can develop those, or you never know. Look at what we saw this last draft, where the Eagles had a surplus of picks, and they felt comfortable enough to trade a first rounder for AJ Brown. So you
Yeah.
never know when those opportunities are going to arise, and it's just I think it's kind of like similar to how what we're seeing in the NBA with a lot of teams just mortgaging their future and trading, for future first round picks, pick swaps and stuff like that, as we saw like with the Clippers with the Paul George, Kawhi Leonard situation. But now we're kind of seeing the inverse in the NFL, where you're seeing teams go all in, whether it be the 49ers go all in for Trey Lance, and
Yeah.
you've seen what that return has netted the Dolphins. You've seen the Rams go all in for not only Von Miller, but for Matthew Stafford. So I think it's going to be pretty fascinating to watch how the teams react and what strategy they go for team building as we move forward and forward with teams, going ahead and trying to put together rosters to compete.
Yep, and that's why this is a good topic. I like cut them off, but I think we got to go to we we got to talk about some of our best bets of the week, bro. Because
This is a
this
tough week.
weekend
This is a tough week.
it's tough.
This is super tough this week. I don't know. I don't know how many I'm going to actually place. If anything, I think I'm going to be looking mainly at player props
Okay,
because
player
I
props.
don't. Yeah, I don't like too many of the actual lines right now. I think they're pretty fairly priced, and the ones that I don't that I'm interested in, I would be taking a team that I'm going to be kicking myself for taking at the end of the week. I feel like.
Uh, man. So all right, then I think I could lead this one off. I would say one pick that I generally like. I like the spread in the Chiefs Chargers game, 5 points. I actually think that is very solid for anyone who wants to pick the upset in terms of Chargers. If you want to go Chargers within the 5 points, I wouldn't be too mad about that because the 49ers barely beat them. And
Yeah,
obviously, it's a different animal when it's the Chiefs. But the game will be in Los Angeles. It's not going to be an Arrowhead, so you have to feel at least comfortable with the Chargers on Sunday night. So I could see the Chiefs winning by a field goal. So maybe they could go Chargers 5. I think that could be a very solid bet for anyone. And considering the way the Chargers have played this year on offense, with a lot of their stars being gone, they haven't been playing that bad. They've actually been a lot better than what I expected. And more credit to Herbert because, bro, I'm pretty sure Herbert shouldn't be playing, but he's playing.
yeah, and I mean, last week he was pretty spectacular. It's just that the injuries have really caught up to them, and you can see that at the receiver position where there's just drops and key moments, and he's still putting the ball in just absolutely incredible places, and the accuracy on some of these throws, even while he's moving around and looks injured. While even though he's still playing, he looks injured. He took a pretty nasty shot directly to the head in the 49ers game. So I do like that one. I honestly think this week might be the week of the underdogs for me. One that I already placed, this is the only bet I have in. I have both Bears +3 and Bears money line, and this is just basically a play on what we've seen the last couple of weeks because I like the way that Justin Fields has been improving throughout the season. And if you look at that Thursday night game from last week, Marcus Mariota looked absolutely terrible. Like absolutely terrible. Like I don't know what he was doing on that one play where he was going down, clearly hit the ground and just threw the ball. He's like, all right, DJ Moore down there somewhere, I guess.
He tried to Patrick Mahomes it in that Super Bowl when he was falling and just flung it. Oh,
He hit the parkour.
parkour. Oh man. That's not a bad bet. I actually do think that's solid considering how the Bears have been playing and the way the Falcons are like so up and down. But man,
and another one, this spread I just don't get. I mean, I guess you kind of have to put a line on it, but I don't know how it's not pick 'em. The Cowboys going into the Vikings and being 1.5-point favorites.
favorite.
And I mean, it's a 425 game, so maybe we get a little bit of prime time. Kirk shows up in a little bit of this one. How does it officially start? If it's dark outside, then that's when we get the bad performances for Kirk. So maybe we
they
should
got the first half until it hits dark.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So maybe the play would be take Cowboys second half, depending on what the score is. But I don't really get the Cowboys being a favorite in that one,
I
especially
don't either.
especially when the Vikings just pulled that last game out on the road against the Bills, and now they're back at home. They're back at home and they're underdogs. I don't really get that one. And then if you could try to explain to me why it's only 4 points in Bengals Steelers, I'd be all ears. I get that the Steelers beat them. I get it. I get that, but like only 4? Only 4? Like we really don't think like what happens if Pickett just throws 3 interceptions? Like or what even if it's 1? And I guess part of the factor into the line has to be that Chase isn't available for this game, which is Burrow's boy. But I with the way Mixon played, especially in that Carolina game, they're coming off a bye and it's only 4 points. I thought it's going to be at least 6, maybe 6.5.
Yeah, and then they still have T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins could be a 1, and Tyler Boyd is a very, very solid number 2. He's a great number 3 if you have him at the slot. So I don't know why, but those are very good questions. The only question I really want to bet this, but I said I'm never gonna. I don't want to bet it. I really don't, bro. The
Carolina
Panthers Ravens,
dude. That's what I was looking at it. I didn't want to bring it up because you were just telling me like we got to stay away.
I just don't want to bet it because I'm like, bro, I'm pretty sure somehow, some way, the Panthers are going to keep this close, and it's going to be like,
yeah, because 13's a huge number, huge.
And I also want to say, like, this is the NFL. Like, come on, people.
And we've
like,
also seen the Ravens be shaky at the end of games. Like
Exactly.
we've seen them be shaky.
If they wanted to put it at 4, I would have no issues with this. I would like, okay, Ravens 4.
Or even if it's 8, because it's 49ers are 8-point favorites for Monday night's game at the Cardinals. Even though it's in Mexico City, so it's not really home field advantage, but even that's 8.
Even. And I think that's genuinely fair.
And that's with the Cardinals potentially playing a backup quarterback. And it's not 10, that's 13 is a lot of points. And especially for a Ravens team that's defense,
they're up and down.
And when we've seen them kind of let their foot off the gas, especially in that Dolphins game when they got up to a huge lead and, just vomited all over themselves. But I guess it's just that the Panthers offense, like,
I have no idea what's going.
I don't want to back that. And now that you get Patrick Queen a little bit, or not Patrick Queen, now that you get Roquan Smith, more involved in the defense, he's going to feel more comfortable, especially coming off a bye. That could factor into it as well. But are we sure the Texans don't just beat the Commanders? I know it's the Texans. I understand it's the Texans, but I mean, that one's tough for me. And then I know it's blasphemy. And I don't really have confidence in even saying it. But is it crazy to say that the Jets could go into Foxborough and beat the Patriots? It might be crazy. It might be crazy.
I don't think so because the Jets defense has played good. The only thing is just, bro, the Patriots have had their number for a while. That's my only thing.
I saw something that it's more likely that we see solar eclipse than we see the
The
Jets.
Jets beating the Patriots in Foxborough.
That's
Oh
crazy.
gosh.
That's crazy. And it's just the thing that actually scares me about that one is just that when a quarterback is prone to making turnovers and just looking sloppy, Bill Belichick will find out
Perfect defense.
how to make him look the sloppiest he's ever looked. And that's the thing that scares me because Zach Wilson, I mean, for as talented as his arm is, I mentioned this the other day. He looks like the kid that is trying out for the high school football team, and his only football experience is playing Madden, and he's trying to replicate everything he does in the video game, trying out for the high school football team. But I mean, and especially coming off a bye, getting James Robinson more involved. Now you can have Michael Carter there too. I don't get that one, but I
I
honestly
mean, the
think
only
if
thing that's keeping the Jets, I would say, somewhat is the quarterback controversy that New England has. Because it's either Billy Zappi or Mac Jones. I don't know who is going to be at quarterback because Mac just simply has not played well. And part of that is
he's
the injury. But
he's
then
fallen off heavy this year, heavy.
Zappi, he had a good stretch, and then next thing you know, that whole Monday night game where all right, there's Mac, then there's Zappi, but then Zappi throws 2 picks. All right, do we want to bring back in Mac? So it was just like a whole debacle on that one. So those I'm really really not sure. That's why I want to give the Jets somewhat a bit of more credit going into Foxborough because I'm like, all right, I because I could see the Jets winning by like 2 points on like a walk off field goal.
Yeah,
And
100%.
then I could also see the Patriots just beating the
I could,
brakes off of them and
yeah,
winning
I
by
could
like
see the Jets
45.
getting shut out. Like I could see the Jets just not putting up a point. First
Yeah.
play of the game is a Zach Wilson pick six, and then it's just a blowout city for the rest of the game. So
Yeah.
for me personally, I think I would just look at underdogs, just because I mean, am I really going to take the Eagles -7 on the road after they just lost? And I get that game was mostly due to turnovers, but then at the same time, all right, I understand that game was lost mostly due to turnovers, but then I'm supposed to expect the Commanders to be a favorite even against the Texans. Like I get it, but I don't know that this week is definitely tough to place bets. I love the Bears. The three I like. I think it's going to be close, and just based off that last Mariota game we had, like I don't know. I wouldn't be confident personally putting anything on the Falcons.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, it's very valid what you said. It's very
But
valid.
but but the other thing is we also have seen the Bears defense get shredded a couple of times, and depending on what the Falcons are planning on doing on offense, because I mean at some point we got to start chanting free Kyle Pitts. At some point that's just what it has to be. And now with Roquan Smith gone, this has to be a point where you can kind of start attacking the linebackers. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I could definitely see you have to. I wouldn't be too mad about it because it's just a mess at this point. Because it's not only them. I believe there's a lot of teams right now that are just a mess. That there is something way bigger going on. I mean, I see they're definitely in that conversation to me as a mess. Uh, who else? I mean, well, we already talked about the Rams. I could definitely put also. I mean, I want to put the Broncos there. I really
The
do.
Cardinals I mean, because we've seen the tirade that Cliff and
Yeah.
Kyler have had, and then there was because they're doing the in season hard knocks, and there was the thing of DeAndre coming off the field, and he's like, "One, what are you looking at?
Nah,
What are you looking at?"
nah.
And he's all mad at Kyler. So I could definitely see that. And in that game, you also I saw news that DeAndre missed practice because of a hamstring injury, and they've been so reliant on him since he's
Yeah.
come back into the fold that okay, I could see that also factoring into the outcome of that game because it's just also how I feel about that boy Cliff. I don't
Yeah.
think I don't think he's that great of a coach as it is, and I don't think he has the team building experience and leadership to go ahead and pull a team out from whatever rut that they might face themselves in.
I mean, it's definitely a mess, and honestly, I wouldn't. That's why I feel like Cliff is going to get fired this year because they're going to say, all right, pick the quarterback. But to go back to bets, dang, my last bet, I would say for anyone to take or avoid, I wouldn't be mad if someone takes this. I wouldn't be mad at Lions money line. I believe the Lions have enough firepower on offense to beat the Giants, but I also wouldn't be surprised if the Giants win in the end in a close game against the Lions. That's just how I see it because I like the Lions offense. The Giants defense has been good for the majority of the year, but we saw what happens when they face a very good passing offense in Seattle. So I have to see what maybe Jared Goff and this Lions offense can do.
Yeah, and my thing is like, all right, if it's a game where it's two teams, especially earlier in the season where I didn't expect a lot for them, I had different expectations. Like, let me get the points. Like, I get that the Giants have outperformed expectations, but in a one-to-one matchup, like, would it be the craziest thing? I didn't expect the Bears to be as good, and the Lions weren't as good as I expected them to be. And then the Lions went into Chicago, beat the Bears, in a
Yep.
game that they honestly, I don't even understand how they pulled it off. And it's their first road victory since Matthew Stafford was their quarterback.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're going to give me points, I would take it.
Yeah, I mean it's 3 points right now, so I say it's not too bad, but I would say the safer bet is money line because with the way how the Giants games have turned out this year, I don't know what the score will be. For all I know, maybe the Giants win by 4, or they win by a late touchdown and they win by 7, or it's a walkout field goal and the Giants win by 1. For all I know, because I mean they've played well. The only thing that will be in the back of my head is okay. Is the Lions offense going to make them match them point for point, or is the Lions defense going to help the Giants match them point for point? That's always going to be my issue with the Lions.
And then the thing is like, all right, we've seen the Lions defense get torched, but mainly it's through the air. And
Yeah,
like, I mean, is it Richie James like that I'm scared of? Like,
Kenny
who is
Galladay
it?
dropped one of the most simple passes last week.
Dude, at some point we might have to start talking about that being one of the worst free agency signings
Signings.
of all time. Of
I wouldn't be
all
mad at
time.
anyone doing it. It's 18 million a year for what was a one receiver, like a low end one receiver with Matthew Stafford, and he just supposed to help develop Daniel Jones, and it just simply hasn't happened.
Because even look at Christian Kirk. Like, me and you are like, what? Like, well, Christian Kirk
He's
is getting
actually
that
helped
much,
Trevor
and
Lawrence.
he's produced. Yeah, he's actually produced. Like, even if he fell off like towards the middle of the season, he still scored last week against Kansas City, and he was balling in the beginning of the season. I haven't seen anything from Kenny Galladay, anything.
Nothing.
But
Man.
two of the bets I'm definitely going to look at, and I'm probably going to place it whatever the number is going to be. I love Pierce's over rushing yards against Washington. I think
I
that
like that.
he's going to be able to get loose. And because we've seen teams absolutely just run right through the Texans defense, I love whatever Brian Robinson's rushing total is going to be at for rushing props, because he was running really, really hard against the Eagles. And I just don't think that the Texans are going to want to match that physicality. And if the game goes according to how Vegas has it, where they have the Commanders favored in the game, I could see it being a game where they start leaning on their running game to start icing the clock and stuff. So you might pick up some yards there. So what I'm looking at right now, I see Gibson's at 45.5. I see Brian
That's not
Robinson
bad.
65.5 rushing yards. I still think
I'll
I'm going
take
to take
the
the
over.
over on that. Yeah, and then for Pierce, I have 78.5. So they expect him to be able to get up there, and he's really producing. He's a physical guy. Will look for that contact, and really they give him a lot of opportunities. So I
Yes,
think
he
you
gets a
have a solid
lot
chance
of touches.
I think you have a solid chance of catching that. I think I got it at 82.5 against the Giants, and he had about 78 going into the fourth quarter. So it wasn't that big of a sweat the last time I had his rushing over. So I do like those two positions, and there's yeah, I think I'll probably lean more towards taking player props this week instead of taking the spreads, because it's weird matchups. We don't outside of 49ers, we have a couple divisional matchups. We have Steelers Bengals, we have 49ers Cardinals, and
Yeah.
we have Jets and Patriots. So those could always go 50-50, and those teams are going to be hyped up and want to beat each other. So I might just stay away from betting some of these games, but I do personally like Bears at some point.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And guys, before we get to our next topic, me and Miles want to give a quick shout out to E2G Sports, who is the presenting sponsor of this podcast. They help us put it on YouTube, uh, Facebook, all social media platforms that we can provide. And it's been awesome. We love what's been going on with this podcast. We feel like we're taking it to a new level. This company has helped us. And if you guys want to check out any of their other podcasts, head to e2gsports.com. You can go under their podcast part on their part of their website. You can see all the podcasts there. You could even listen to all of our podcasts individually if you find it hard to find it on their YouTube channel. But check it out. They talk about all sports, NBA, NFL, MLB, you name it, it's there. And it's awesome. I love every second of it. And we've had an awesome time, right, Miles?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about my time that we've had over at E2G, whether it's helping us out live while we record the podcast or some tidbits that we might have missed just in conversation. So, it's always a help to have another party listening to, help us out with anything that we might have missed. Or, we had some news come in during one of the shows about a potential injury that we could see later on, and some news that might be breaking at a press conference. So it's just always helpful to have that ear looking out, because, me and you are trying to have a conversation and make it entertaining for people to listen to us, so we're not checking a million things. So it's nice to have that support and background system. So always a good shout out to E2G for everything that they do for the podcast.
Yep. And now let's get to it, bro, because we got some fantasy to talk about. And I think first thing we got to talk about is for anyone who listened on Monday. So the way it ended on Monday, I beat Miles.
Yeah, you beat that.
I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. But now,
and now my team is in shambles.
Yeah, I would say this for anyone. I want to read to you guys Miles' starting lineup in the fantasy league. Me and Miles are playing outside of our E2G league. His lineup is Joe Burrow, James Conner, James Robinson, Brandon Ayuk, Christian Watson, who gave him 21 points. Can't be too mad at that. George Kittle, Devontae Smith, the Steelers defense, Tyler Bass, and Green Bay's punter, Pat O'Donnell, who gave him six points, and which is good. Yeah, but what hurt Miles is the bye week, because Kenneth Walker can't play, Tyler Lockett and Tyreek Hill are also can't play. And then to top it all off, Dallas Goedert went on IR, so he doesn't have Dallas Goedert. And to the cherry of all cherries, like Miles said, Cooper Kupp is on IR. So I felt so bad for Miles once I heard the news of Cooper Kupp. I was like, oh my gosh, is Miles going to have like anyone this week play for him?
But I had to add Christian Watson off of in the free agency mix this week. And I believe I also added Brandon Ayuk as well, because I don't think he was on my team heading into this week. So I honestly don't even want to talk about it. Like, it just hurts me to my core. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, one, was terrible last week, just absolutely goose egg. And he's only projected 5.5 points against the Chargers, the vaunted run defense of the Chargers. Like, I don't think this. I think this is the last time I'm ever going to have him on any of my fantasy teams. I think that the potential that we all saw at LSU has just completely flown out of the window, and I think we all.
But also, Isaiah Pacheco has been unreal for them ever since coming in,
and he's honestly just better. Like, he's just better.
He runs in between the tackles.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire hasn't been able to put it together at all, even in the passing game, which you thought, okay, like at least he could help that. At worst, you can use him as a third down back, and he's just not very good. So. Yeah, we'll see how this week goes. I was able to make the game last week a little more respectable, because I got a tutty from both Goddard and Devontae Smith in the Monday night game. But then unfortunately, Dallas Goedert gets injured. Devontae Smith decides to throw a negative 36-yard lateral at the last play of the game, so that counts as negative points and negative receiving yards to add to his total, and a -2 for the fumble. So appreciate that, Devontae. Happy birthday. I'm glad you got the touchdown. But geez, man, we could have just honestly went down at that point. But
Yeah,
yeah, so I'm kind of getting a little bit concerned because as of right now, Angel is
six
Angel's
and
in third place. He's at 6-4, but
four.
he's in third place because we have two-way tie between me and Alex at first place at 7-3, and then in the west side of the division we
Peter
have
is
8-2.
8-2. I will say this. As much I love Pete, but bro, he's been so lucky in terms of schedule. I want look at his schedule. The time he plays people, he plays them at the right moment.
Yeah, I mean he has me. He faces me next week, and I'm honestly the way my team's looking, man, I would absolutely die to have that bye in week one of the fantasy playoffs. So that's honestly what's concerning me the most. And if you look at everybody else that's in the playoff mix, it's you at 6-4, Nick at 6-4, and Dom at 6-4. Outside of the three that we just mentioned. So if I lose this week, which according to the projections, I have, it's a good shot that I do lose this weekend just according to the roster that I just read out to you, it sounds like I'm going to lose. That means there could be at,
A
at
two-way tie for
least,
second in our division if Alex
and
wins his
not
game.
only that, that means 1, 2, 3. That means we could have at least 4 people at 4 losses. So the last 2 weeks of the season will be very, very crucial
And you
for.
play Alex next week.
I play Alex or I play Peter.
Oh, I thought. Wait, I know
I
you
think I
play
finished
Alex
the
again.
season with Alex. No, I play Alex this week. Oh no,
Well,
it's next week. No, it's Alex then Peter, which is great.
okay.
Great, just great. Just
Oh man,
absolutely
and
spectacular. And then I end the season with Peter.
uh, well, I will
We
say
were
this
talking
for
about Moises
anyone.
having this season from hell.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you have a tough matchup because you're facing Edwin, and Edwin's team is kind of on fire right now. Edwin has Dak, Derrick Henry, who gave him 25, Alvin Kamara, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, who's had a very good year. Uh, Everett, don't know his status. Singletary, he's had a good game, well, good season so far in terms of fantasy wise. The Jets defense, we talked about them. We don't know what's going to happen. If they play good, I believe Ed wins. Nick Folk, I can see something, and Tress Way, the punter for Washington. So he's got that, and oh man, I will say this: I am kind of scared for Myles, but I'm also like saying to myself, man, if I'm hoping him and Alex both lose, so it's a 3-way tie for first, and I could be like, yes, I was down 2 games for so long behind them, just trying to chase, and I beat Alex, and next thing you know, I beat Myles. I was like, okay, cool. Now I'm just 1 game away. I've turned 2 games into one, and if it's that, I'm hoping. I mean, because I don't know. Now it could be like a trap week because I'm facing Ryan. Ryan's 1-9, but I'm also be like, bro, he could with Aaron Jones only giving me 14 and Brian Stonehouse only giving me 5 to give me 19 for the 2. I'm like, oh, I didn't like that start. I would have at least liked Aaron Jones to get one touchdown. Then I would have felt more confident going into Sunday.
It's just it's this is where you really have to start grinding. Where you got to look at matchups, and I mean I don't know what I was doing with having so many. And even if you look at our E2G league, look, the
So
entire
many.
state of Florida has a bye week. It's the Dolphins and the
Yeah,
Bucks, which kind of crafts all over idea of having an entire Florida team.
yeah, that did hurt us for this
We
week.
have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
I
8,
don't
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 players on a bye this week. Because the Jags are on a bye too. Literally the
the
entire state
Jags,
of
the
Florida.
Buccaneers, and the Dolphins. So that kind of that hurt us a bit. It did.
Kind of that killed us.
Well, a
Honestly,
lot. I
that
mean,
might
I
be a
did
death
try.
blow.
I mean, we did make some changes to the lineup. I was like, okay, maybe we could at least be, not as it won't be embarrassing, but at least a respectable embarrassing because we did switch our lineup to guys who might play this week. I'm not gonna say might, but oh man, that's just bad. But I will say
It's
we
it's
will
pretty
probably be
terrible.
5-5.
In E2G,
Yeah.
we're already 5-5.
Oh,
That's
five
my
and five. My bad.
that's my thing. It's like we were like, all right, let's just get back to 500. We get there, and then it's like, surprise, everybody in the state is on a bye.
Yeah.
That's the tough part.
It's
That is
tough,
indeed the tough part.
but like we said, our goal is not to get last place because if we get last place and we talk so much about fantasy, it's like
Oh, that's a bad look.
they have
That
every
would be a
right to take
terrible
away
look.
the fantasy card from us.
And you know, we our whole goal is to not be in last place. And if you look at the West, there's currently 3 teams in the E2G league. Yeah, in the E2G league, if you look at the Western Division, there's currently 3 teams in a three-way tie for second place at 6-4. So, like, if we had any chance at winning this week, like we could be still in the mix for this league. But unfortunately, that's just not looking like it's going to be in the cards for us unless we get. I mean, I think even if we were to get like a Joe Mixon 50 bomb from somebody, I I honestly don't think we would win.
Oh man. Oh, okay. I'm just reading some comments that we got. Uh, and the number two
Yeah,
team
it's seven
overall.
and three, Lord of the Rings, by
Yeah,
the co-founder of E2G Sports, Kimberly. So that's who's holding it down in the West, and we were trying to come for the throne, make a little late season push
push.
as we head into the home stretch. But this week's lineup is
I mean,
ah,
it's always the first season. The first season of fantasy, whenever you're playing with people, is tough. It's always the
yeah.
first season because you're trying to like, okay, what is everyone's tendencies? Who's willing to trade? Who's not a fan of trading? You always want to get that kind of stuff. But we also were
And then
very very committed to the Florida team. We were very committed.
especially in a league like this where you actually have defensive players now, like understanding the scoring, I think will help us as we continue to go into this league and hopefully get at least make our first playoff appearance, if not this year, next year for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
For
if
sure. Now
anything,
that we have
let's
our feet wet.
yeah, we can actually. It's like, all right, we know exactly what positions matter the most. Now let's just get this first and get them out of the way. Then the rest of them we'll snag it for later. But I can't be too mad about that one. The one thing I will say to go back to the league me and Miles are playing outside of E2G, I will say I the playoff picture as it currently stands, because I wanted to give Miles' point of view on it. Peter is currently the one seed right now in the whole league. And he would, if it were to end today, he would face the winner between me and Nick. Nick, who's won 4 games straight, credit to Nick. Uh, and then Miles would be right now second, the second overall seed. So he would get the bye, but he would be facing the winner of Alex and Dom.
Yeah,
And
and that's if things stay the way that they are, because
if they
I,
stay the way that they are, because right now, bro, the like how to go back to like what you said with the standings, if Miles and Alex were to somewhat lose, hit the me, Miles, Alex will all be 7-4. And if well actually who does
well, if
I
you
need
look
to
at the final standings projections right now, I'm currently scheduled to finish in fifth, which I
yeah,
think is pretty fair when you look at what my roster is right now and you look at what the rest of my schedule looks like, having to go against both Alex and Peter to basically wrap up the season before the final actual game. You moved up last week
to
from two to
first.
one. Yeah, yeah. So you have to be feeling good about yourself there. And then
Uh,
who? And then it looks like Alex is second, projected second.
yeah, Peter is third, Nick is fourth, you're fifth, six is JP, seven is Dom. That's where I was just like, and then I looked at Dom's team. Like Dom's team this week, he has Josh Allen, Zeke, Daryl Henderson, Alan Lazard, who gave him 10 yesterday, T. Higgins, Kelsey, Rondell Moore, the Saints defense, Robbie Gould, and Johnny Hecker, Carolina Panthers punter. Because he has DK Metcalf on a bye, Mike Gesicki on a bye, and Tua on a bye.
Yeah.
So
I
it,
mean, his team is pretty solid. I mean, when you look at Josh Allen, Higgins, Kelsey, I mean, and especially, I think he really needs to see what happens with Zeke because he's on the struggle bus heavy with
yeah,
having to start Henderson from the Rams. So that's the thing that he needs to see is what is his running back lineup going to look like because that's pretty tough, especially with Zeke missing the last few games.
yeah. And I will say today I got a little nervous because I saw Lamar was questionable. Lamar ended up questionable with
Yeah, I
an
saw that.
illness. So I'm like, oh man. But I wouldn't be too mad because I have uh in my eyes trash quarterback Daniel Jones. So I mean he's playing the Lions. So I was like, all right, if Lamar can't play, at least I'll have Daniel Jones. Hopefully he can just run all over them. And hey, maybe it could get somewhere. But I also am kind of worried about AJ Brown and Justin Jefferson because both of them came out questionable this week. Because once I saw, I was like, oh, okay,
And that's another thing when we were talking about the Eagles betting. Like it's like, all right, like do we not take? I mean, because AJ Brown, it looked like he tweaked his ankle, and then he was a non-factor the rest of the game. And I get Devontae stepped up, but Devontae's questionable. Goddard's already on the IR, so now we're looking at Quez Watkins, who I get got open for the long reception, but then also fumbled the ball right after.
Miles Sanders,
I guess he's going to be lining up out wide or Gainwell something.
Kenneth Gainwell,
Yeah, maybe they call up Darren Sproles.
or Boston Scott.
Yeah, dude, I can't believe Boston Scott's a real person.
I mean, that could definitely happen. I think it's more than capable of happening, but that's why you gotta love fantasy football so much, man, because we don't know what's gonna happen. We really don't. We have
And this is where it gets really stressful because all year you're like, all right, I'm looking good, I'm feeling good about my team, and then this is like, all right, I have no more room for error. Like I have zero room for error if I want to make the playoffs.
Yep, zero room for error. Well, that's gonna lead us into our last topic of the day: games to watch this weekend. And the one game I personally was recommend everyone to watch outside of Sunday Night Football, because one, that's really the only game you can watch at that time. I really do like the Giants Lions game. I feel like that could actually be very good. I feel like that could be a solid game for everyone to see. Because I don't think it's gonna be that bad. I feel like it will be like a solid game. I think like 28-24 or 23. I think it could end up like that.
I agree with you, and I honestly, I just like the Lions. I mean, either way, like they're going to be able to teams are going to be able to move the ball on them. They're not scared to move the ball themselves, whether it's Amon-Ra St. Brown, whether it's Swift or Williams out of the backfield. And even though it is golf, like he's looked, I would say, I mean, I don't think you can really complain too much about how he's
Yeah,
played.
can't be mad. I mean, he's done some things that have cost the Lions some games, but I also would say like, hey, he hasn't played as horrible to officially lose them the game.
Yeah, and I don't, and we've seen him be like when he came down here on the Rams and played the Dolphins, like he like had no shot in the game. He looked absolutely just frightened back there in the pocket, and I don't think we've seen too much of that from him. And I honestly just think it's because he's playing in Detroit and expectations have been lowered for him, and he doesn't really have to carry around the weight of I was the first overall pick for this franchise. I'm supposed to put everything on my shoulders. So I agree with you on that one. As far as the early games go. I think for me it has to be Jets Patriots because if the
Well,
Patriots win, they'll also be at 6 wins.
yeah, but also for your Dolphins, because if the Jets win, bro, the Jets are in first place.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Jets would be in first place. So we'll
I
we'll
could
see
just
about that.
imagine how the Dolphins fan base will be. It goes, the Jets are in first place, and we have the same record.
Yeah, but they got the head-to-head tiebreaker.
Yeah,
That's how it goes. Even though our quarterback was unfairly taken out of the game in that one, so whatever. We had to play with the third string quarterback in that one on the road. So whatever. They still have to come here at some point in the season. So we'll be able to avenge. We'll be able to avenge that one. And honestly, that's a game that I'm looking so much forward to because I honestly really like that Jets defense, and I think that could be a problem in this game because with how shaky Mac Jones has played, I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets can really get after him a little bit. And you see Sauce Gardner out there; he's a
he's
really,
played very
really
well,
good
very
corner.
well.
And I like DJ Jones, who they have on the outside. I think this is going to be a fun game. It might not be the most high scoring, but I think you're going to see a really, really physical football game and two teams that each team wants to beat each other.
Yeah, hands down. I mean, I kind of said it. I feel like either the Jets win a close one or the Patriots just beat them like crazy. Where it's because I wouldn't be surprised because Foxborough is a tough place to play. It is
And
not
with
easy.
the I know that I don't know the exact geographics of what's going on, but considering that we're having a giant snowstorm and state of emergency in upper New York and Buffalo, that and the game had to be moved from Buffalo to
To Detroit.
Detroit. Who knows what the weather is like in this game? I know Foxborough is more upper
Good point.
upstate Massachusetts, so we'll have to see what the weather looks like for that one going into that game. So and Zach Wilson might not even have the chance to really lose the game because it might just be a ground and pound game.
It very much could be. Very much could be.
Yeah, so for
Man.
the 1 o'clock slate, I don't like too much. I mean, you could talk me honestly. For some reason, the sicko in me really likes that Commanders Texans game because I'm a big fan. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a huge fan of Heineke, but I honestly he should be the quarterback. Like
Yeah.
get Carson Wentz out of there. If Wentz ever plays, I'm not watching it. Heineke, all right, at least I can watch. And he got that dog in him.
Well, I could say this: Taylor Heineke is Ryan Fitzpatrick 2.0. I could
Who
100% make that argument.
who'd you say?
No, Taylor Heineke is Ryan Fitzpatrick 2.0.
If he pushed the ball down the field a little bit more, I could definitely see it. But he's Ryan Fitzpatrick in the fact that he's like Terry's down there somewhere.
Yeah,
I will find him.
yeah,
I will
and
definitely
it's
find him.
that's definitely one. I will say this: the last game I think me and Miles both have as game to watch is obviously the game of the week for everyone. It's Vikings Cowboys because I don't know which version of Kirk Cousins is going to show up. Um, I would say this for the sake of I like um I like teams going down to the wire in terms of like final standings. I would like to see both the Eagles and Vikings win because I want to see them duke it out to see who wins that one seed and gets that bye. And the other team is just going to say, we have this amount of losses and we have to play on wild card weekend, which is now, hey, there's a reason why there's another wild card. 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. That's how it's going to be. So
And depending on how it shakes out, I mean, because the Vikings division has been so terrible this season, and the NFC East has been surprisingly really strong. It could be a matchup we've already seen, whether it's Eagles that end up in that 2 spot, and it's the Cowboys at 7,
yeah,
or possibly the
probably,
Giants at 7.
yeah. It could be maybe like you said. Imagine if like the whole NFC East makes the playoffs. It's like maybe Cowboys are like the 5 seed, Giants are the 6 seed, Commanders are the 7 seed. A
I mean,
whole
it's not
division.
impossible. It's not impossible. I mean, they showed on the Monday night game between the
The
Commanders
AFC
and the Eagles.
East.
Yeah, highest winning percentage all time for through 10 weeks for any division. And
Yeah,
obviously that was bolstered a lot by the Eagles being undefeated because the AFC East cannot be far behind.
it can't be. It really can't.
Yeah, because I mean, what the Jets, Dolphins, and Bills all at least at 6 wins, and the
Yeah,
Patriots are 1 win behind that with 5.
yeah. The only thing that really hurt the NFC East is probably Washington because
Yeah, but they moved up to 5.
yeah,
Yeah,
they got up to 5.
they're at 500, and I mean they were boosted a bunch by just the Eagles being undefeated. Can't be, and nobody was better than that.
Yeah, can't be. But I mean, hopefully next week we got a lot more better games that we can, talk about and, give more detail on and insight on. But guys, we will be back next week on Monday. We're gonna try to get on Friday, depending on how the holiday goes and shakes up for both of us. Because on Friday we will mainly talk our reviews of the game and how it impacted us on fantasy because me and Miles will both have some players playing on fantasy, well, a good amount of players. So we love this. We're gonna show up next week, guys. We'll definitely see you Monday. We might see you on Friday, and if we do, we'll give you guys an update on our fantasy betting, tell you what to go after, what not to do, and yeah, we can't wait until next week.
Yep. See you guys next week. Peace.